If you're someone that wants to drastically speed up your Ableton Live workflow, then this video is for you. I'm going to take you through 10 game-changing tips that use keyboard shortcuts to get things done at the same speed you think of them. Tip 1, scroll wheel heroics. The first tip isn't actually a keyboard shortcut, it's a mouse shortcut. This is about using your scroll wheel. Firstly, if you scroll up and down with your scroll wheel, the screen moves like this. And if you have a mouse like mine that allows you to do side scrolling, it moves the track like this. If you hold down Command on a Mac or Control on a Windows and scroll up and down, you zoom in or out. If you hold down Alt and zoom up and down, you resize the individual tracks that you're hovering over like this. Ableton is designed by clever people, and you realize this when you realize that those same scroll shortcuts work in all the windows. So in the MIDI note editor, if you scroll up and down, you move up and down, and left and right, you move left and right. But if you hold down Control and up and down, you zoom in and out. And if you hold Alt and go up and down, you resize the MIDI grid like this. And works on the sample editor as well. Tip 2, tab or shift and tab. Now this is a super simple one, but it really speeds you up. So if you want to move between the arrangement view and the session view, you could press the buttons on the top right here, or just press tab. Secondly, if we're looking at this bottom area here and you wanted to move between the device editor and the clip editor, you could click these two sections here, or you could press shift and tab to shift between them quickly. Clip view shows the MIDI notes or the audio waveform, and device view shows the effects or the device that's on the track. Tip 3, add tracks. At certain sections of your production or your live session, you'll need to add new tracks. Control or Command T will add a new audio track. Shift, Control or Command T will add a new MIDI track, and Alt, Command or Control T will add a new return track. And if you're using take lanes, which you use when you're recording multiple times to choose the best take, you can add a new take lane by Shift, Alt and T, like this. Tip 4, group stuff. So now we've got loads of tracks added that they get in our hand. One way to control the chaos is to group tracks together. Let's just say these first two tracks were going to be for the drums. So select the first track, press Shift, down and down, the down button, and then press Control G, and you've created yourself a nice group. We can do this with all of our tracks. You can also hold Shift and click on the tracks and then press Control G, that works as well. Quick tip on these, the right and left button will allow you to quickly open and close these groups so you can see what's inside without having to use the mouse. Grouping isn't just for tracks, you can also group effects and instruments. These are called instrument racks and effects racks. When you have a series of effects on a track like this, hold down Shift and select them, and then press Control G, and you've got yourself a nice group that you can play around with here. This is a very nice way to create a group of effects that work together like one effect. Tip 5, name stuff. So now, I grouped everything together, we're nice and organized, but I can't bloody remember what any of these tracks are for. I really wish that I'd named them. This shortcut is also a mindset shift as well. If you've ever got lost inside one of your massive productions, this tip will really help you. Ableton allows you to name pretty much anything, and the shortcut to name things is exactly the same. It's Command R or Control R. So I want to name this group, click on the group, Control R, and call it Drum Group. I want to name this track, Control R, this is bass drum, and so on and so on. I want to name this clip, this Control R will be best clip. I want to name this drum sampler, Control R, Ollie's drum sampler. Really, really easy. Naming everything means that you're completely in control, and when you look, you immediately see what things are. The mindset shift I told you about earlier is about naming things when you add them. So whenever you add a new track or whenever you add a new effect, give it a name that means something behind the intention you added it for. So what this means is you don't end up with names like hybrid reverb. You would say something like hall reverb for vocal. Tip 6, grid. This is quite a powerful tip. The grid in Ableton is the main way, it's the framework that all the clips and the MIDI notes and everything is held within. You can see it as these lines here on the arrangement view. You can have a zoomed in or a zoomed out grid. So if you press Control or Command and 1, you zoom in on the grid. If you press Command or Control 2, you zoom out of the grid. Why is this useful? Well, it defines where you can move a clip to. So for example, I can move this clip to anywhere where this grid is showing. If I wanted to go a bit more between the notes, I can move it like this, but I'd need a tighter grid. So being able to zoom in and out means you're in complete control of where your clips can go. If your song is in triplet time, press Command Control 3 to move it to a triplet time, or Command Control 3 to move it back from triplet to non-triplet time. And if you want to move your clips to somewhere that isn't on the grid, press Command Control 4 and you can literally move the clip anywhere, literally down to the lowest level of resolution your software and your computer will allow. And Command Control 4 turns the grid back on. So grid off, grid on. This also works, of course, in the MIDI note editor. So if you press Command 1, you zoom in, and Command 2, you zoom out, Command 3 makes it triplet, and Command 4 turns the grid off and on again. You might not have thought much about the Ableton grid before, but being in complete control of it will really help you. And this next tip, tip 7 quantise, will show you that in use. If you're like me, the quantise function in Ableton has taken a bit of a while to get used to. I come from a Cubase background where it was approached a bit differently. You can't just click on a clip and then press a button to quantize it. You have to do it a little bit differently. You have to go a bit deeper. But once you're there, if you're like me, you'll love it. So to open up the clip editor, click on the clip here, and you can see my recorded notes. Blimmin' terrible playing. You can see how off the grid I am, absolute shocker. So the first thing you do is press Control or Command, Shift and U, and that brings up the quantize menu over here. And this quantize menu is within the clip itself. Look at the various options here. You can select grid or quarter note or 8th, 16th, 32nd, or you can also have triplets as well. I'm going to leave it on grid. Now here's where the previous keyboard shortcut is absolutely awesome in helping you do this quantize. You can use Command 1, 2 and 3 to select the exact grid where you want the notes to fit against. You can use triplet grids. This isn't in triplet, so I'll just do straight. I would like all of these notes to basically be aligned to 8th notes. So I'm going to set the grid to be 8th notes like this. In Ableton, you also need to select the notes you want to do this to. So what I'll do is I'll go Command A to select all the notes, and then you press Command U, and all the notes will magically line themselves to the grid that you've just selected. Using the grid with quantise is really useful because you've got fast and quick keyboard shortcuts that will get you to the exact scale of what you want to quantize to, and then some keyboard shortcuts that allow you to quantize. But I've got a really good pro tip for you here. If I undo my quantize, Command Z, what you'll see here is this amount knob. So if I've selected the grid and I'm happy with where the grid is, all you need to do is move this amount knob and it will move it slowly somewhere between 0, which is where it started, and 100%. So if you don't want a full quantize and you want to leave some of that human feeling in there, you can select a lower level. So that's a nice pro tip. It's obviously not a keyboard shortcut and you have to use this little knob here and the mouse. Tip 8, map it. Now I think it's time to talk about one of the superpowers of Ableton, the ability to map all of these functions to either a keyboard or a MIDI device. So for example earlier, the quantize amount button was not mapped to a key command, so there's nothing I can press to make this amount go up and down. This is where MIDI mapping comes in. So if you've got a controller like this with some knobs here, you can map that amount button to one of these knobs. So I'm going to press Command M, which brings me into the MIDI mapping screen where everything goes a little bit purple. I'm going to click on the amount button here, and then I'm going to use this top button here that I'm going to just turn that once, and suddenly you can see that now says 1/16 and I've mapped that. So I can press Command M to come out of the mapping again, and now when I move that same knob, you can see the knob is moving up and down, controlled by my MIDI device. This is actually a pretty cool workflow if you're going to be doing a lot of MIDI editing. Use the grid key commands, use the quantize key commands, and use this mapping you've just done to be in instant control over your MIDI. And I think this has made my MIDI editing about 10 times faster than it was before. You can also do the same thing with key commands. Press Command and K, and the screen goes a bit orange rather than purple. And then if you do the same thing, press the thing you want to automate, and then press a button on your keyboard, and that will then be mapped to that keyboard button. Note that once you've mapped a MIDI controller or a keyboard button to a controller in Ableton, it loses its normal function. So if you mapped one of these sliders to something, what that would normally do in the way it's set up with Ableton, that would control the volume of track 1. But if you map that to something else, it would no longer control the volume. So just be aware of that. If you find yourself doing a repeated action in Ableton over and over again, there'll either be a keyboard command that you can find that does it, or you can map it to your keyboard or your MIDI controller. That is a pro tip of how to speed up your workflow, especially if there's something you're doing a lot of. Tip 9, automation. Now, automation is something that Ableton does really well. You can automate almost anything, and there's a great keyboard shortcut that will help you get there. In arrangement view, press A, and it will toggle between the automation view for all tracks and the normal view. So that's the automation view, and that's the normal view. So I'm going to quickly add some automation to this track here. So I'm going to press A, I'm going to choose the mixer, I'm going to choose track volume, and I'm now going to apply some automation curves onto this track here. Pro tip, if you highlight the section you want to do and right click it, you get these nice interesting shapes you can add. So you can literally speed up the automation you want to do. This is much quicker if you want to do like a fade in or something over this period here. That is nice and easy like that or something. So now you've got this automation in. When you're playing and mixing all of the tracks which have all got automation in, sometimes something happens that's a bit of a problem. Let's just say you accidentally moved the volume knob a little bit to a different level to hear what it sounded like at a lower level. Can you see the automation has now gone from being red to being grey? Now this can happen and you might not notice that it's happened, and you could be like, where has all my automation gone? Now there's a great button that will turn all of that automation that you've accidentally turned off and will return it to red, so it actually hears the automation. And it's this button up here which is called re-enable automation. So if you click on that, all of the tracks will be back to whatever they were mapped in this automation lane. Now that's really useful, but interestingly it doesn't have a keyboard shortcut. So I always map that keyboard shortcut using Command K, and I click on that button, and I always use R. And what that means is I then have a button that if I've lost my automation and I want to just quickly get it back, I can press R and everything jumps back in. So this isn't a standard shortcut, but it's a good one to have if you use a lot of automation in your tracks. Tip 10, on and off. This final tip is a cracker. The button 0 on your keyboard is magic. It's the on and off switch for everything. If you click on a track, it toggles this yellow button on and off. If you click on a clip, it mutes and unmutes it. If you click on a device, it turns it off and on. It's pretty amazing. And I bet there are things you can turn on and off with that exact button that I haven't found yet. If you like having fast access to functions and commands within Ableton, I bet you're really keen on improving your understanding of instrument racks. Being in complete control of instrument racks really speeds up your workflow within Ableton and avoids that option paralysis that you sometimes feel whenever you open up a session. Click on this video here where I take you through a great approach to this and even have some crafty ways to help you minimize your CPU on more complicated tracks, and I'll see you there.